what SwissBorg means to me is, at the end, is how are we going to decentralize nations? How are we going to create essentially, wealth management that could be an ecosystem that could be fair, that could be fun, and more importantly, could be driven by a community that believe in this decentralized part of life.
What about yourself?
Community-centric crypto wealth management ecosystem.
How is it working with you, brother?
It's a great thing. Sometimes we get into fist fights and sometimes we laugh together and we commemorate all our fun souvenirs and our dreams, and sometimes we make them happen, and we're very proud of it.
And I think the cool thing about it, the family, the whole brotherhood is a good message for the community as well. It's not easy, obviously, working with family, because you still want to keep your relationship as brothers before everything, because family matters the most. But if we can complement each other, in different ways to help grow the company and serve the community, right? That's what really matters.
I mean, so that kind of leads into what my next question was going to be: is do you think being related gives you an edge in the crypto market?
I do think by nature, right? It's weird. We sometimes make a post separately. So, for example, on LinkedIn, he'll get 250, 300, 400 likes. But if we just do a post that doesn't even have a story, but it's the two of us, sometimes it gets like twice the likes or comments.
Fusion.
So it has an impact. Yeah.
So whether you enter the community as an employee, like your first days, or you get to download the app and you get to meet us, I think so you quickly realize that you enter into a family. And because you actually do. Because the brothers here, but then aunts, we have cousins. And I think so that creates something that is really strong and it's long lasting, because, working with strangers is a great way to create a family. But having a family, it's even a better way to actually have those values and build. And people really enjoy the fact that, a lot of people who join the community become our family members as well.
How do you achieve that? I mean, it's almost a meme, isn't it, in corporate America, of like, we're a family. Like, how do you guys feel you're actually able to achieve that in reality?
Maestro is on my right here. I think one of the superpowers that my brother has is the culture. He creates this culture where I'll always remember my first internship. It was at the United Nations Development Program, the UNDP. And on the very first day, I received 7 emails inviting me out for lunch. And I felt such a warm welcome. I'm like, wow, this is such a cool organization. SwissBorg is that amplified. We're talking about really amplified, where everyone is sending you private messages, sending you invites for little coffee breaks in the morning to get to know you in person. And there really is, the culture has transcended and has stayed this way regardless of the scaling, because we went through startup to scale up. Hopefully one day we'll be an established player. But even though we're 300 employees, this man right here has that power to still keep that type of culture, which is hats off to you.
Thanks for that. Thanks, brother. And I think so Alex does a great job for sure for that. I think so it's like training athletes. You could be part of a football team that could change your life forever. And I think so a lot of, Messi, he got to PSG eventually, but he was born in Barcelona, even if he's Argentinian, and he grew for the last, 15 years there. And I think so we're doing the same thing as SwissBorg. It's really training people to be the best athletes and as well to be the best human beings, right? Very often, whenever I see someone politician, I said, you have 2 more minutes for your career here by being a politician. You rather change or you're out. And I make those cold decisions very often to say, like, okay, if you can't change, you're out. And I think that's very important. A lot of companies, or you're driven by career choices that you make. It's not career choice that you make. It's really how you have that brotherhood, that sisterhood. You elevate people to make the best things, that make decisions together. And sometimes people, have their own agenda, and that's where you don't build family, you build diplomats. And I don't think so we have that. Especially that actually we're actually children of diplomats, so we know exactly how to bullshit, and we know those techniques that we don't employ at SwissBorg. For sure.
I mean that really sort of ties in with the whole concept of sort of decentralized finance and kind of crypto, isn't it? I mean, it matches in with that exactly. That it's about improving things for other people rather than the old way.
Yeah, and I think it's important to break that corporate mold. which doesn't seem to be in par with this new society, you know, these millennials who want something different, right? I mean, you know, like when you think about 100 years ago, centuries ago, our grandparents, right? You would just go to work and you would just execute whatever task you had to do. No opinion asked, nothing like that. You weren't involved at all, right? You're a machine or a human being within machines. And then it became more corporate where people can express their opinions and stuff like that, but still be very top-bottom. And I think the new evolution, this whole DAO, you know, phenomenon is really not just being top-bottom, bottom-up both ways, but also like kind of killing that hierarchy, which is really not that meaningful at the end of the day, right? I have one of my juniors, as we may call them in the corporate world. She never calls me her boss when she talks to me to anybody out there. She'll just say, he's my colleague, even though she's half my age. And that's cool, you know, that's if you create that culture where people feel comfortable, and because the more hierarchy there is, the more filters there are, and the more filters there are, the more miscommunication happens. So anyways.
Yeah, and maybe last one, if I could jump on that one, Alex, is the most important is are you on a mission, or are you on a mission, or are you essentially having a job? And if you're on a mission, well, then you're going to celebrate the good times, but you're going to be extremely, extremely as well resilient in the bad times. And that's the massive difference, I would say, for us. You know, we were doing more communication when we lost 99% of value of our token than we would do when we did it on a bull run, right? That's I think, so that part is that when you know you're on a mission, you're going to meet the right people that will, you know, say, okay, I know what you guys are doing, I believe in it, I want to contribute to it, and I want to make it better, faster, stronger, whatever you want. And I'll be there in, you know, the rainy days, the snowy days, and as well enjoy, obviously, the sunny and spring days. Yeah.
It sounds like you've really got your handle on a corporate, like your company culture within the Web3 space. What do you see other companies doing wrong in Web3, do you think?
That's a very good question. Thanks for asking it. No resiliency. Everyone flips. It's easy to flip. I could do multiple ICOs and raise 50 million probably multiple times in my career. But why do you stick to it? So many companies, so many founders look into the eyes, I know they're going to flip in 6 months because they don't have what it takes, right? Looking and going on a mission for the 6 same years, it takes so much, right? And that's what you have to do to really change the world, right? You have to work for 30 years or even maybe more. You know, Elon Musk, when he exited PayPal, he knew it was not his main thing. But he knew he was going to go one day on the moon, he's going to one day on Mars. And he's been doing that for the last 20 years. Went through almost bankruptcy, same to me. You know, I'm nothing to compare to Elon, but I know that what, you know, you need to entrepreneur is to have that very strong mission and then bring all the people to whatever, you know, great adventure it is, and make sure that, you know, you don't look into the noise and say, oh, but I need to flip this, I'm going to do this NFT, I'm going to do this DeFi, and then do this again because I know how to copy paste my business model to just have personal gains. And then this, you know, essentially be anonymous and go into another project and flip that again and do another project and copy paste it and do that on and on and on and on. And what you need at the end in blockchain is to have one wallet. 200, 500 years from now, you will see exactly what you bought, what you trade, what you yield, what governance votes you had, and that will show that, you know, your wallet's probably one of the coolest one ever. Yeah.
If I can just add to that. So for me, it's ethics, number one. And then investing in technology rather than marketing would be number two. And what I mean by ethics is like, you know, when you're really down, tokens down 99%, crypto winter 2018, and everyone hates you, especially things get very emotional when people lose so much money, right? And you're so tempted to do unethical things, take shortcuts. I had moments where I was talking with Cyrus and Anthony, and I said, listen, guys, we know there's this market maker. He can create he can remove all selling walls, just pump. It's going to cost us this amount of money to pump our token unethically and looking for shortcuts. And, you know, when you're really down, you're in a dark place, you're actually contemplating these things. Should I do that one thing that's super dark just for the sake of the community? And I always remember, Anthony, you always told me, said, Alex, we have to stay ethical from day one onwards regardless, because in the long run, that will pay off. That will create the brand, right? And even though temptations happen, right, in these dark moments, really, I think that it's critical to stay ethical at all times in order to have a sustainable business, that will be here. We want to be here in 2, 5, 10 years time. We don't want to be one of those coins that just arrived in 2017, 2019, it just disappeared, right? And that's a critical thing. And then the second part, which I don't really like with regards to some other players who do similar things to us, is all the money that's being spent in marketing rather than being reinvested in their app. Some big companies, like massive companies, their apps suck. Like the UX sucks, the technology is very average, the order book still hasn't been re-engineered, you know what I mean? So instead of going all aggressive in marketing, reinvest in your technology, make better products. If it's better than ours, then we will have to be pushed to make better than them, and it just helps innovation and it's more importantly mass adoption, right? Because a lot of the best or the most famous products out there, they can't be used by your grandmother or even your aunt or great aunt. It's still too complicated. Who knows what a limit order is? Who knows what a market order is? Why do we need all this stuff? I mean, the whole purpose of this space is to bridge that wealth gap and become more inclusive, which is even more important than decentralization, because inclusion is really the key. It's a problem that we're solving over 3 to 4 centuries of problems that were created initially as a catalyst from that wealth gap.
You segue perfectly to where I wanted to take the conversation. Celsius, BlockFi have now closed their services to anyone in the US that's not an accredited investor. I know you don't offer services in the US. What do you think about the concept of only allowing crypto finance services to accredited individuals?
Well, that's great. You're just repeating what has been done, and you're banking on it, and your business will be very successful. And at the end of the blockchain era of your life, you realize that you brought nothing to the game. You just enriched yourself. Congrats for that. I think crypto has a soul. Finance never had it, or had a devil for that. And the picture just behind us, you can see that these very rich aristocratic French that make a lot of money, right? But did they really have an impact in the world? Yes. Did they bring it to a certain community? Probably yes, but that's at 0.1%. And if we're just repeating what we're doing, we won't get to a better planet. That's for sure. And the essence of Bitcoin, the essence of Ethereum, and everything that goes to Web3 is actually to change that, right? Bitcoin was created when Lehman fell, and the reason was to create a decentralized planet where people would have new rights to share their data, to share value, and to collaborate with Ethereum and build applications that people would use, and to eventually have anyone within the 8 billion people on this planet to profit from this, and not the same other 1 million inhabitants that are doing that for the same time. So I think it's a pity, but with greed, it's hard to judge people. It's always the same thing. And if you look at what's happening in DeFi today, it's great, it's fantastic. However, the applications are still quite complex, and unfortunately, against the same different crowd, but a similar mindset where you're having 5,000, 8,000 users that are super loaded now, that are taking control of these markets, and hopefully, these guys will hopefully will be better from the hedge fund managers 20 years ago or the investment bankers 50 years ago, but that's not the right solution, right? I think so. With SwissBorg, what's great is that at the end, whoever you are, if you're based in Europe, you're retail, you could deposit, you could then get to YODL, so you yield within good rates quite rapidly, and I think so. That's a cleaner, I think so, mission than just offering this to the very few lucky ones.
Cool. So you mentioned also before about, I think you called it complicated in terms of Web3. I've been thinking about this myself quite a lot recently, and it reminded me. Everyone always goes back to obviously the 90s and the internet, but the way that I would describe dial-up internet was clunky. I think Web3 and blockchain at the moment is exactly that, still clunky. And I agree that the progression is going to come from when we remove that. How do we remove that clunkiness? How do we go from modem to super fast broadband in the blockchain?
Yeah, that's a great question. To be honest, until there's no way to recover your keys, it's going to be very difficult, right? That for me is one of the biggest elements of getting to there. Because going from fiat to crypto, there's a few companies doing this well, and that's good. Then sending this to your browser and potentially losing it through MetaMask is what happens every day, and I see it like really often. And there's no way to recover your own funds. So until there's no way to potentially solve that problem, it looks like we're going into something that's going to be quite difficult. It's difficult, or at the same time, you need more education, maybe, right? People get to be more educated. It's not only the products. Very often, it's as well education. We're seeing more and more platforms that are being built, and NFT is a great way to educate people to get into crypto. So I think so maybe with education, this will definitely happen. I'm very comfortable to say that, Web3's mass adoption element will come from play and earning games. All these great video games that people want to play, not just earn, because earn, that's just, a fake thing. You don't play to earn, you play to compete. You compete, and then you eventually, potentially could earn. That's very important. So as we're going to see this industry getting more mature, there's so many new games that are popping out, like Cross of the Ages and other ones, that will become where a lot of esports players are going to come, and we're going to see definitely adoption is going to grow and grow. And when these guys are going to realize what they could do by lending their swords or lending these different lands and yielding, then we're going to get into how people could go into DeFi and all of that. And that's where I see this reverse cycle as you play, you have fun, and then you start earning on a critical level, building wealth, and then getting into governance. The governance, for me, it's the last part where you will eventually be able to, as a DEO, to decentralize nations, yeah.
If I could just add on that, one term that I heard earlier this year was regulated DeFi, which almost seems like an oxymoron or an antonym, right, when you really think about it. But I think one thing that's cool these days is CeFi is limited, DeFi is limited. So it's really the combination of both that empowers the human being. And I think that's where DeFi needs to go. It needs to recognize that, yes, you need a fiat on and off-ramp, so you'll have to work with a centralized party. Other than that, the combination of the two really working hand in hand, I think, is going to be critical. As my brother said, if you want to make it easy for everyone, for the masses, there's some components of CeFi, like, for example, custody, that could help some people if they're just, a little bit forgetful, or they're just, they're a bit not as well organized. And then another thing, I think in terms of tooling, I would love to see biometric ID recognition that would replace private keys or a seed phrase, for instance, right? What if, MetaMask goes in and it will just recognize your face just like your phone, or others, even more advanced biometric identification, metric or technologies.
That would be great.
I think that would be an essential step forward to make this for the masses and not just the tech savvy.
But using some form of zero knowledge proof along that, so that you're not giving away your ID to third parties.
Yeah, perhaps, yeah. Maybe not the private. You're right. Maybe not the private key, but maybe your recovery phrase or another element can be managed through your facial recognition or something like that. Yeah.
Love it.
Cool. Right, guys. Well, we've been going for like 20 minutes, so I mean, it's like a keynote. So thank you very much. Is there anything you guys want to sort of say to the CryptoSlate audience? Anything you want to plug?
Last thing. My name is Cyrus. What's your name?
Alex.
And we are
the Blockchain Brothers. CryptoSlate is the best media, by the way. So.
It is, yeah. And don't forget to download the SwissBorg app.